You ever throw away a bunch of kitchen scraps and then stop for a second thinking, could this actually grow into something? I remember the first time I saw a tiny green shoot coming out of an old onion end I'd tossed aside. I didn't plant it. I didn't even mean to water it. But somehow, that little thing grew. And in that moment, I realized I'd been throwing away more than scraps all this time. I'd been throwing away free food. Hey there, welcome back to Green Family. If you've been here before, you already know this is where we take small spaces, small budgets, and turn them into something beautiful. And if you're new, welcome home. You've just joined a family that believes you don't need deep pockets or fancy tools to grow what you eat. Just a bit of curiosity and some patience. Before we get started, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the bell. Not because I said so, but because every day we share simple, honest ways to make your garden work for you, even when money's tight. All right, let's dig in, because today I'm showing you 8 of the easiest crops you can grow absolutely free from your kitchen scraps. And I promise, a few of these will surprise you. Maybe even change the way you look at your leftovers forever. Crop 1. The forgotten taro that refused to die. You know how sometimes you forget a piece of cocoyam or taro in the kitchen, and it starts growing these pale little shoots on its own? That's exactly how my first one started. I was cleaning up after making soup, and one piece had a little bud. Instead of tossing it, I buried it halfway into an old paint bucket filled with soil. I didn't even expect much. 2 weeks later, that same bucket was full of the broadest, greenest leaves I'd ever seen. It looked like something straight out of the tropics, and I hadn't spent a single cent. All you need is the top part of the cocoyam with a bit of root still attached. Push it halfway into damp soil, and keep it moist, not flooded. It loves shade, so it's perfect for those corners where nothing else seems to grow. What surprised me most? Even before I harvested the root, the leaves alone made my garden feel alive. It taught me something small but important. Sometimes what we call kitchen waste is just a seed waiting for a bit of attention. Crop 2. The turmeric that sprouted in secret. There was a time I thought turmeric was one of those market things, something you just buy when you need it. Until one day, I found a piece in my spice basket that had started to sprout, even in the dark. It had this tiny horn-shaped bud, almost like it was trying to tell me, hey, I'm not done yet. I didn't have a proper pot that day, so I used an old food container. A handful of soil, a sprinkle of water, and I buried that turmeric halfway. I forgot about it for a while, honestly. But a few weeks later, there it was, a bright green shoot pushing through like it had something to prove. What I learned is that turmeric doesn't ask for much. Just a bit of warmth, partial shade, and patience. In about 8 to 10 months, it rewards you with a whole cluster of fresh rhizomes, and the leaves? They smell amazing, almost citrusy when you brush past them. The funny part? That one forgotten piece turned into my go-to supply for homemade turmeric tea. And it reminded me that sometimes, nature grows best when we stop overthinking and just let it be. Crop 3. The papaya tree that grew from the breakfast table. I remember this one so clearly. I was cutting open a ripe papaya for breakfast, and as usual, I scraped out all the seeds straight into the bin. But my neighbor, old Mr. Ao, saw me and laughed. He said, "You just threw away a garden." Out of curiosity, I saved a handful of seeds the next time. I rinsed them, spread them out on a tray to dry, and a few days later, pressed them into some soil in a small bucket. To be honest, I didn't expect anything. But within a week, those seeds woke up. Dozens of tiny, eager sprouts pushing through the soil like they were racing each other. Papaya grows fast, much faster than you'd think. All it really needs is sunlight and warmth. Once the seedlings are about a foot tall, you can move them into a bigger pot or your garden. Even if they don't all fruit, they grow into lush, tropical-looking plants that make your space feel alive. What I loved most about this experiment wasn't even the fruit. It was the joy of seeing something so ordinary, something I used to throw away, become a little forest right outside my window. It's funny how nature just needs a small invitation to do its thing. Crop 4. The pumpkin that grew from the compost pile. This one still makes me laugh. One rainy season, I tossed some pumpkin scraps into the compost corner behind my house. You know, just the usual peels and stringy bits full of seeds. Weeks later, I walked past and saw these thick, bold vines curling all over the place. At first, I thought it was a weed. Then I looked closer. Those were pumpkin leaves. Without any care, no fertilizer, nothing. That compost corner turned into a jungle of green. The vines climbed up an old wooden chair, stretched across the fence, and before long, I had baby pumpkins hanging in places I never planted them. Pumpkins are funny like that. They love neglected, rich soil. If you ever have a piece of pumpkin with seeds still inside, just drop it in a sunny corner with compost or loose soil, water it lightly, and wait. It does the rest. You can even train the vines upward if your space is small. They'll follow whatever support you give them. That compost-grown pumpkin reminded me of something beautiful. Sometimes the best things grow when you're not trying too hard. You just need to create the right space, and nature handles the rest. Crop 5. The chayote that sprouted in the dark. This one happened by accident. I had a chayote, some call it vegetable pear, sitting in the corner of my kitchen. I completely forgot about it. Weeks later, when I finally picked it up, it had a pale green shoot growing straight out of its middle like a curious finger reaching for light. I didn't even peel or cut it. I just half-buried the entire fruit in a pot of soil near my fence, with that little sprout pointing upward. I watered it every few days, nothing special. Within a month, that single forgotten chayote had turned into a climbing vine, reaching for the top of the fence like it had a mission. The beauty of chayote is that it grows fast, very fast, and gives you plenty of fruits from just one sprouted piece. It loves sunlight and climbs naturally, so if you've got an old wall, bamboo poles, or a simple trellis, it'll happily cover it in green. And here's the part that always gets me. From that one spoiled fruit, I got over a dozen fresh ones later that season. It reminded me that even things that look too far gone still have life left in them. You just have to give them a little room to grow again. You know what? Let's pause for a second. I've been sharing my little plant surprises, but I want to hear from you. What's the weirdest or most unexpected thing that's ever started growing in your kitchen? Maybe it was a tomato sprouting from the bin, or a ginger root that started growing before you could even use it. Go ahead, tell me in the comments. I love reading those stories. Some of your experiments end up giving me ideas for the next videos, honestly. And if you've never tried regrowing anything before, this is your sign. Just pick one thing from your kitchen today, even if it's just a seed, a stem, or a peel, and see what happens. You'll be surprised how much life is waiting in what we throw away every day. All right, let's get back to it, because the next one is one of my favorites. I used to think it was impossible to grow this at home until I actually tried it myself. Crop 6. The avocado that refused to quit. Let me tell you about the avocado pit that completely changed the way I see kitchen waste. I had just finished making breakfast, mashed avocado on toast, and I was about to throw the seed away. But something about it stopped me. It looked too alive, too full of potential to just end up in the bin. Now, I'd seen all those fancy toothpick in a glass tricks online, but honestly, I've never had luck with that. So this time, I decided to try something simpler. I buried the pit sideways in a pot of soil, leaving just the top showing, and placed it near my window where the light hits soft in the morning. For weeks, nothing happened. The soil just sat there, quiet. But one day, I noticed a small crack right down the middle, and before I knew it, a strong little shoot was standing tall, stretching toward the light like it had been waiting for its moment. That avocado never gave me fruit. Not yet, at least, but it became one of the most beautiful plants in my home. Every time I see it, I'm reminded that growth doesn't always look dramatic or fast. Sometimes it's silent, patient, and slow, but it always finds its way up. So if you ever finish your next avocado, don't toss that seed. Plant it sideways, give it a bit of sunlight, and let nature surprise you. Crop 7. The tree that grew like it had a secret. This one honestly caught me off guard. I didn't even know morina could grow that fast until a friend of mine decided to test it out. She found a handful of seeds at the bottom of a spice jar, the kind you'd normally throw away after cooking, and just pressed them into some leftover soil from her pepper plants. A week later, she called me, saying, "You need to come see this." When I got there, her entire pot was full of tiny green stalks shooting straight up like they were in a race. She hadn't done anything fancy, no fertilizer, no special soil, just sunlight and water. Within a month, those sprouts had become sturdy little trees. She started plucking the tender leaves for tea and stew long before the plants were fully grown. By the end of the season, she had a whole line of morina bushes shading her walkway. That's when it hit me. Morina doesn't grow, it erupts. It's like nature's reminder that life doesn't always need a perfect start. Sometimes, a forgotten seed in an ordinary pot is enough to create a forest. So, if you ever come across moringa seeds from your kitchen, a friend, or even a dried pod, plant them. They'll show you what determination looks like in green. Crop 8. The seeds that were hiding in plain sight. This last one started with pure curiosity. I was cooking one evening and reached for my spice jar. You know, the regular coriander seeds you'd sprinkle into stew without a second thought. But I noticed something funny. Those tiny brown seeds looked too alive to just be called seasoning. So I decided to test it. I took a few, soaked them overnight, then sprinkled them over some old soil in a tray I wasn't even using. I didn't cover them, didn't do anything fancy, just kept it slightly moist and left it by the window. In 4 days, the first shoots appeared, small, bright, and determined. By the end of the week, I had a soft green carpet of coriander microgreens that looked and smelled better than anything from the market. I tried the same with fenugreek seeds later, and it worked even faster. What I love about this one is how simple it is. No garden tools, no outdoor space needed. Just your spice jar, a bit of soil, and some curiosity. It's funny, isn't it? We go around buying seeds, pots, and fertilizers, while half the time, the next generation of plants is already sitting quietly on our kitchen shelf, just waiting for someone to give them a chance to grow. You know, after trying all these little experiments and hearing how plants just seem to grow wherever they feel at home, it's made me realize something. Gardens don't always start in the soil. Sometimes they start right there in your kitchen, waiting for a second chance. From a forgotten piece of taro to a handful of papaya seeds, every single one of these plants reminds us that growth doesn't need a big budget or a big yard. It just needs a bit of attention. And now I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments. I'd love to see how far the green family has already spread. Maybe you're watching from a sunny balcony in Nairobi, a tiny kitchen in London, or a backyard somewhere in the Caribbean. Wherever you are, I hope something here inspires you to try just one of these crops today. If you're new here, welcome to the green family. Around here, we grow more, spend less, and find joy in the smallest green things. So don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell. Not for me, but so you don't miss the next small idea that might just change how you see your kitchen scraps forever. Because the truth is, you don't need much to start a garden, just a little faith, a bit of soil, and the courage to begin.